the panel discussion.
Okay.
Alex, maybe you can also join us. Okay, so the topic of the today panel is how from premium to utility scaling BC technology for solar scale deployment. You both mentioned several advantages during your presentation. In summary, really brief and crisp, while BC technology has been around for decades, so what has fundamentally changed that now makes it a serious contender for utility scale applications? Very brief.
Maybe I'll take this question first,
Yeah.
and Christos may, add something after. Basically what we have done is that to make something from lab to fab, this is something that LONGi is quite proud of. We have done a lot of tons of development in terms of process simplification, tool and material development, and cell architecture innovation as well, which enables BC, which is not expected to be usable for utility, to now is mass productionable, producible for an annual capacity for 60 gigawatt each year. Such everyone is able to access it, and it is available to a general public. And of course, we are able to provide an absolute power advantage, about 30 watt per panel. Plus, the biphase reality factor is quite comparable to TOPCon, which is not expected three years ago. So I would say this is a game changer, and a deal breaker that LONGi has been delivered to the market.
Okay, Christos, would you like to add anything?
Yes, what has changed? I think back conduct technology has been there forever, since the years of SunPower, right?
Yeah.
What has changed is, first of all, cost reductions. We see that the manufacturers now employ manufacturing strategies which are cheaper than before. Another advantage is we are able to further increase the module efficiency, which basically creates a gap between other technologies. Scalability is also a factor for manufacturers. We see now larger module formats in terms of frames, but also the wafers. We're using M10, G12, and whatever. And durability and reliability is also becoming, let's say, more mature. We have improvements in material quality, which may translate into extended module lifetimes, and also energy yield optimization. For example, now we have tracking systems that are not the same level as they were like 20 or 30 years ago, that further help to elevate back conduct modules, further optimizing the yield.
Okay. So, going a little deep on the technical developments, so for example, in cell design, module assembly, or manufacturing, that specifically made BC compatible with the demands of utility scale installations. I think this question is both of you.
Maybe again, I'll take this first. So let's look at it, review the history. About 10 years ago, in 2015, BC is not applicable and deployable for utility market. One fundamental reason is that the daily capacity is quite low. Let's pull some detailed figures. During that time, I joined the industry in 2017. Back then, the price for BC technology for rooftop project is almost twice as the conventional silicon module. And the fundamental reason is that for a daily manufacturing yield for the BC cell, back then, for a single production line, the daily capacity is about 25,000 solar cells per day. But what now? I'm able to disclose a figure. We are able to make 250,000 solar cells for one single production line, So that the daily capacity is 10 times as 10 years ago, which ultimately drive the cost down because your supply is much higher than what has been done before. So one key feature and one key development is that we are able to develop a ultra fast and high precision wafer to completely replace the expensive photolithography. So I would say this will be a fundamental development that we deliver to the market.
Okay, so that means primarily scale and the yield are really the key.
Exactly. The yield, the scale, and how fast you can make it.
Okay. Christos?
Yes, I think I agree with what Alex here has said. I would also say scalability is a key factor. So it's driven by the cost reduction, the power output of the cells, the conversion efficiency has increased that, even help stretching differences further. Yes, I would say these are the key factors that drive the installation of back contact PV modules.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the market adoption and perception of BC. So how is the market responding to BC modules at the utility scale, and what are the key drivers or hesitations you are seeing among the developers and EPCs? Maybe this is for Alex.
For sure. So due to the extremely high power, the 30-watt power difference that I've been repeating about, which is going to result in a much higher investment return, which is quite popular for the market now. So since last year, I'm able to disclose a number, which is that for a BC deliverability, we have been delivering roughly 20 gigawatt of BC modules since the February 2024. So now we have, by the end of this year, we will be having 60 gigawatt of annual capacity of BC, which makes BC available to the market. In terms of the hesitation, well, generally speaking, people are not familiar with BC, and that's why we're having a talk today. So I'm seeing a lot of questions in the chat box that people are getting familiar and people are getting, having a better understanding about BC. But generally speaking, the hesitation comes from whether you can buy it from the market, whether you can access it from the market compared to 10 years ago. In 10 years ago, people are hesitating about BC for utility deployment, basically due to two reasons. One, whether you can buy it. Second, at what price. And now I would say that these two enables the deployment of utility, because the price is, I wouldn't say the same, because the value we have been delivering a much higher value, but I would say quite comparable. But in contrast, 10 years ago, it was twice the price. But what now? Now the price is very comparable. So I would say, these are the two factors that drives the BC, deployment and development.
Okay, then what kind of feedback are you receiving from the installers or the project owners regarding the BC modules?
Well, in generally, in the market, what we have been hearing from the market, some are from corporate customers and some are for installation customers, is that, for BC, in the operation time, the yield is much higher, especially in early morning and late in the afternoon, where your irradiance is weaker, which is supported by the IAM difference presented by Christos as well. So which translates to a result that regardless of DC or AC, whatever the mode that you're operating in, when your ambient temperature is high and where your irradiance is low, then BC is outbeating TOPCon by generating a higher bar power at that time constant.
Okay, so, are there any common questions or misconceptions you frequently encounter? So, because, I think earlier you also mentioned, so where should I buy? Who is the supplier? Apart from that, so from the technical perspective, are there any frequent questions or concerns, or you see some misconceptions?
This is a great question that I would like to suggest to our audience today as well. So when you look at the power class of a module, right? Well, the power class is it improves as a function of time. So this is a general question that I always get from our sales team and our customers as well. Some people would ask me that, hey, Alex, TopCon is able to reach 650 watt, and what about your BC? I will ask them, yes, 650 watt, yes, and that's a solution of the product. But when are they able to deliver? That's a completely different question. Whether you can make
Okay.
it in the lab doesn't mean that you can make it in the fab in your factory. So this is the thing that I would like to emphasize or strengthen to our audience today. When you try to compare the power class, you don't compare the research lab top power to your mass production power. If you do compare, you compare something you can buy on average from the market today. You compare apple to apple. You don't compare things today against things 2 years back. So that's a delivery that I would like to deliver to our audience today. Emphasize on what you can buy from the market, not what you can read from a PowerPoint.
Okay. Okay. So then a question to Christos regarding the system integration and design. Christos, speaking from your experience in testing, how compatible are BC modules with today's trackers or other BOS components? So are you seeing any special requirements for BC?
For the trackers, the compatibility with the tracker does not depend on the cell technology. That is also what I try to say in my talk. People think back contact module is completely alien compared to TopCon, for example. Basically, you need to have a mechanical compatibility, and most tracker systems now are able to successfully accommodate the larger module designs that we see in these both back contact and TopCon cells. Basically, the modules are, as we said, 2.3 meters long. Another key factor is for all modules that they have a bifacial gain, right? TopCon and also, of course, also back contact, these modules, and heterojunction even more. It's very important that you try to minimize rear shading. So you see now tracker systems try to implement features which better support bifacial modules.
Right.
Right. And generally speaking, I would go back and say again that we see tracker systems try to evolve and better accommodate larger module sizes. I think this is the most important thing.
Okay. So with respect to BC, what are the design consideration the developer should keep in mind? Any specific?
Right. So this module design consideration. So of course, back contact modules are bifacial modules. So they should be very careful in the installation of the modules to avoid rear shading. I think it's very important to implement monitoring and maintenance in all new power plants. So they can consider integrating advanced monitoring systems that will also help them to identify issues earlier and prevent things as well. The other thing is all these modules, like we mentioned, are quite large. So I think they have to be careful with the mounting installation, the mounting configuration, whether they use a tracker, whether they use a fixed mounting system. They have to make sure that modules are installed according to the manufacturer instructions.
Okay.
So I think these are things that need to be considered when you're looking in a new commissioning a new system.
Okay. Okay, Alex, we know that the bifaciality of BC is relatively low. So, how do you convince EPCs on this? Because, sometimes they simply compare with the bifaciality? And there are also some studies out there which kind of say, okay, some monofacial to bifacial comparison. So how do you convince those EPCs, and what's your roadmap to improve the bifaciality?
So look, I do understand that theoretically speaking, BC may not have exactly the same number of the bifaciality factor because you have twice the metal context on the rear side. But what is the real impact in terms of having, let's say, 10% gap in the bifaciality factor? It doesn't mean that you will have 10% difference in terms of power generation from the rear side,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the irradiance from the rear side is generally speaking 10% of what you will be able to receive from the front
Yeah.
side. So if you do the calculation, as I mentioned in my slides, technically speaking, the 10% of power of the bifacial difference results in no more than 3 watt in terms of the sum power. But what you gain from BC from the front side is about 30 watt. That is something that's absolute. You can written in your contract, you can written in your car, in your performance guarantee. But in terms of the rear, there's something not as solid as what you have from the front side. But of course, we do understand that bifaciality factor is a key feature for a utility product in terms of investment. So we have substantial potential and technology which we are able to deploy to our back contact module to boost the bifaciality factor approaching 80%. But it may take some time and it may have some impact on the others as well. So whether you need such a high bifaciality factor is a question that leaving to our customer, depending on their application scenario. Whether you have an ultimately high albedo factor from the front side, or you have an average or in general reflectance from the rear side. So I'm happy to discuss more with our audience later.
Super. Yeah, that's nice. So since we are also running out of the time, so I would like to move to the final remark, closing remark. So when do you foresee BC technology reaching full uptake in utility scale solar projects, and what milestones must still be reached to get there?
Perhaps I will take this first. So as I mentioned, for LONGi, we will be expecting 60 gigawatt of annual capacity for BC, and that would be the majority of what we will be offering to the market. So that is not a question for LONGi, that's a question to the market. In terms of the power and the product value, we are seeing a unbeatable ceiling for BC in comparison to TOPCon. But of course, it will take some time for the other adopters to adapt the BC technology when the tools, the materials, and the process are more mature and, of course, more accessible to our competitors. But in terms of the product, in terms of the value, we would be able to expecting, say, my expectation would be that in 2028, the majority of the utility market would be using BC. At least that would be the vision of LONGi, and that is what we are marching towards.
Christos, you were in solar for forever, I think. So what your experience tells?
Right. For how many years, what I foresee in the future for back contact specifically, right?
Yeah.
That's a good question. So I think definitely back contact technology has the potential to play a significant role in utilities. I would say in the next 5 up to 10 years, I think we will see more improvements in efficiency, further cost reductions, but also reliability validation, for example, what we have not extensively seen. I mean, we have one company that has been doing it since forever, SunPower, but other than SunPower, we don't have so many companies that have deployed back contact modules for like 20 years in the field, right? So more data will become available, and we're going to see more things. Back contact technology is going also to evolve itself in the next 5 to 10 years. Maybe we see it with a tandem I don't know. Let's see. But I think back contact technology is here to stay. It's unlikely that it will disappear from the market.
Okay, that's a nice closing remark. So back contact is going to stay here. Great. So thanks a lot, Christos and Alex, for this very nice panel discussion. So with this, I would like to conclude our webinar. But before we close, I would like to share a few updates for our upcoming event. So again, so before closing, thanks a lot to our sponsor, who is LONGi, for supporting such a very insightful and information to our audience. Thanks a lot again. So we have, we also have few events coming up in October. On October 9th, we have our Solar Sustainability Conference. So please do not forget. So please add to your calendar. And then we also have another event. So that's advanced applications for the module. So the event is called TaiyangNews Advanced Solar Module Application Conference. This will also be held in October. Very soon we will come up with the date. We are just trying to fix with our key participants. In 2-3 days we will also come out with the exact date. And then we also have several publications. We recently launched our new solar module mounting systems overview 2025. But just today, we launched another report. So both the reports are, in summary, are the compilation of new products that were introduced at leading solar shows, which is SNEC and Intersolar. We have a third edition of it coming up very soon. That includes inverters and batteries. And here we might also include a few interesting products from RE Plus as well. So with this, I think, we come to the ending of the session. Again, thanks to LONGi. And we see each other in one of these upcoming conferences. So till then, have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here, and also happy Mid-Autumn Festival to all Chinese.
Yeah,
Thank you all.
that's true. Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you after next time.